When you read or write to files in Perl, you tend to do this using something called a file handle, which is a different type of a variable in the Perl language. So we're going to look at file handles in this lesson, and we'll start by making a working copy of files.pl, and we'll call this one handles.pl. And we'll go ahead and open that up. And here you see we have a little bit of code that opens a file and prints it out and closes the file. And so this uses the open function call. And this variable here is a file handle. You'll notice that it has no $ in front of it or anything like that. It's not a scalar, it's not an array, it's a file handle. They tend to be written in all capital letters when they're in this form. And you'll see that it's used in a couple of different places here throughout this little piece of code. And so the open function call uses a file handle as its first argument. Its second argument can be a file mode, or if you skip that, it can just be the file name. It's a little bit confusing, so I always include the file mode. It's just easier to remember that way. And in the event that the open is not successful, we have this OR condition, and we'll print out an error. And in the error, this is important to notice, we have this $bang, which will give us the error message from the operating system. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this error happen because we're opening a file that does not exist in this directory, and you'll see the directory listing over here does not have working file.txt. We'll make that in a moment. And so this will fail and we'll get an error message. So we'll go ahead and we'll save this and we'll run it, and we'll see we get the error message there. It says cannot open file because that's the message that I put here. And it has this $bang, which gets interpolated and gives us the error message that says no such file or directory. So that makes it really clear what's wrong is we don't have that file in our directory. So let's make a working copy of linesfile.txt here. And I will call it working file.txt. And then when we run this code again, and there we go. We've got the 5 lines of text that are in our working file. Open that up and you see it's got these 5 lines of text in it. And that's the result that we get. Here we're using the file handle to read from it. And this is the simple form that's commonly used to read all the lines from a file. Print while file handle. Putting the file handle in angle brackets like that, in a list context, it will give you all of the lines of the file, or in a scalar context, it will give you one line at a time. So for example, I could write this the other way around, and I could say while my line equals file handle. So that's very clearly a scalar context. And I can say print $line like that. And if I save that and run it, it'll give us exactly that same result that we just had there. The shortcut way to do it is the way that I had it before, which is simply print while file handle like that, and a semicolon, and save and run, and we get that same result. This is commonly the way that you're doing it unless you have a lot more things to do in your loop than the print. Another common thing to do with a file handle, of course, is to write to it. So let's write some code that will create a new file. And we're going to open another file here, and we'll call it new file handle. And this one will be for writing. So we have the right angle bracket for writing. We have the left angle bracket for reading. You can look at it as reading from the file because it's pointing away from the file. And in this one, you can look at it as writing to the file because it's pointing towards the file. And you can say new file.txt or error cannot open file for write. So we know which one it is with a bang. And we can call this one for read. If we had our file names in variables, we could put the file name in there instead, but this will work for now. And we want to make sure that we close it when we're all done. So we'll put a close down here, close NFH. And now we want to read from the old file and write to the new file. This will look like this: print new file handle while file handle, like that. And so it's just as simple as that. Looks like I am missing a semicolon over here. And there we have it. When we save and run this, you'll notice we don't get anything to the console here because we didn't print anything to the console. Instead, if we refresh our file system, and I'll just right-click on this in Eclipse and click on Refresh, you'll see we have a new file here. If we open that, it has exactly the same content as the working file.txt. So we have effectively copied one text file to another text file just by reading the lines in this while loop and writing them to the new file. So this is how you handle the standard, what I call the old style file handles in Perl for a simple operation like you're just copying from one file to another, or you're just reading lines of text from a file and maybe doing some regular expressions on them or something like that. This will work fine. For a lot of other purposes, it's useful to use the modules that come with Perl for the object-oriented file interface, and we're going to look at that in our next lesson.